Welcome, everyone. My name is Deirdre Magnan. I'm with the American Institutes for Research. Thank you for joining us tonight for our CS for All Teachers webinar, Closing the Digital Divide, How Districts Make the Technology They Have Work for CS. So your host tonight will be Ashley Waring. She's got a great group of panelists lined up to discuss this topic. Before I hand things over to Ashley, I would just like to mention a few things. If you haven't already, go ahead and let us know your role and where you're joining us from in the audience chat pod. Also, any technical questions that you have, you could submit there throughout the webinar, and the same is true for any content questions that you have for our panelists. There will be times when they're able to address those questions throughout the webinar. And also, if you'd like to ask a question verbally, you can raise your hand in the meeting room. And when you do that, I will unmute you so that you can ask that question verbally. Right now, we've got everyone muted. To raise your hand if you're not sure how to do that, there's an icon at the top of the webinar software. It's a little person with their hand raised, and you can click on that and we'll see that you've raised your hand and unmute you for a moment to ask your question. And so I think without further ado, we are just about ready to get going. Yeah, looks like we are. So I'm going to hand things over to Ashley. Thank you again for joining us. And Ashley, take it away.
All right, so I thought we could start with getting everybody to introduce themselves, the panelists. If you could just take a couple seconds or like 15, 30 seconds to say where you're from and what your role is, and then some fun fact about you. And Sarah, we'll start with you.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Dunton. I am the ESEP Alliance Manager. That's the Expanding Computing Education Pathways Alliance. We're an NSF-funded project that works with 16 states in the territory of Puerto Rico to broaden participation in K-12 computing. Fun fact about me is that I grew up on an island.
All right. Matt, do you want to go?
Sure, yeah. I'm Matt Kosmeskis. I'm from Holyoke Public Schools in Holyoke, Massachusetts. We are a turnaround district in receivership. We are the second poorest district in the state, second lowest performing as well. So part of the team brought in to help turn that around. There I'm Director of Technology and Systems, so we do a lot of the back-end stuff, a lot of the technology, a lot of support for teachers. One of the fun facts about myself is I've been on a whitewater raft guide for 15 years, so I do pretty advanced whitewater guides trips, and people can come out with me and go do that, so it's pretty fun.
Very cool. All right, Bill.
Thank you. So my name is Bill Church. I'm the Director of White Mountain Science Incorporated. We shorten it to WMSI. In northern New Hampshire, I'm a former classroom physics and robotics teacher. Through WMSI, we do STEM outreach, so after-school programs, summer camps, teacher professional development, and we work with high school and college interns. So in northern New Hampshire, fun fact is I enjoy living in the mountains, so skiing, hiking, and climbing with family and friends. I've also, with students, been able to take coding to the stratosphere with high-altitude balloons, so pretty fun stuff there.
All right, and Kelly Lane.
Hi, thanks for having me tonight. My name is Kelly Lane, and I'm with Hoover City Schools. We're right outside of Birmingham, Alabama, and I currently serve as a technology integration coordinator, which means I get to spend time with teachers and how they're going to integrate technology in their classrooms every day. My fun fact would be that I actually get to work with Ashley, and she is in my district, and then also some of the participants that have jumped on tonight, Daniel and Benny. I'll give you a shout out for joining in, so thank you so much, and I look forward to the chat tonight.
Awesome. Thank y'all, and thank y'all so much for taking the time to join in on this conversation. I'm Ashley Waring. I'm a CS for All Teachers Welcome Ambassador. I'm currently serving as a K-5 STEAM teacher at Rocky Ridge Elementary School in Hoover. Yeah, so let's get going. So this is the first question that I thought we could talk about, and this conversation, this chat is going to kind of go like a natural conversation. So just feel free to jump in to give us your answer. But question one is, what does technology access look like at your school, district, or in your network? And Matt, if you don't mind, let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah. So in my district, we recently used up all of our E-rate money to basically renovate all of our systems and back end. So we have pretty great Wi-Fi in all of our buildings. We've been able to, so we're in Massachusetts, and we were actually able to partner with MIT and the Mass Green High Performance Computing Center to kind of like revolutionize our internet connection out there, which is really pretty amazing. So from there, like actually in the classrooms, we've been able to, within the past 2 years, we purchased well over 2,000 Chromebooks for 5,500 students. So definitely not one-to-one. But we're working with, the primary motivator for that at the time actually really was for computer-based testing. But obviously having them around as a resource has been really huge for students and teachers. And so we're actually got a lot of downhill momentum right now going with just getting more technology into the rooms and all those pieces. So, we've also been able to purchase more purposefully on some of our like high school computing. So we actually have we just this year replaced all the computer labs at our high school so that we can run a lot more advanced stuff. We can do 3D graphics and lots of just much better equipment than they'd ever had in the past. And then actually, believe it or not, just recently last year too, we were just able to get teachers laptops for the first time. So they actually hadn't had laptops. They'd actually just had desktops in their classrooms. So right now, like I was saying before, we're actually in the middle of a whole redesign. So we're really right now expanding a lot of the efforts and a lot of the opportunities for students. So we've actually completely redesigned our high schools. We're adding a STEM middle school, and the high schools have been working so that we had a traditional path kind of high school, and then we also had a technical high school. And so we're actually combining those into a north-south campus that students will actually kind of get bussed back and forth in between at some point, so they can experience the shops and the facilities that the technical high school has, and kind of have their own personalized pathway through it. So with that, there's going to be a lot of we're kind of laying the groundwork right now for a lot of the future plans going on for our schools. So so I think that about covers the big.
You have a lot going on in a good way.
I'll jump in and talk about Hoover. So Hoover City Schools has been a one-to-one with Chromebooks for the last 4 years. Previous to that, we were an iPad one-to-one in our high schools for 2 years. Currently, we are a one-to-one for grades 3 through 12, and students are able to take those devices home year-round in a hope that it provides a device not only for the student but for the families that we serve. In our K-2 classrooms, those classrooms have 5 Chromebooks plus 2 Chromeboxes for their use, and we've just rolled those out this year, the additional Chromebooks for the K-2 classroom, and we're working through that right now with the new Android-enabled Chromebooks. So we're excited about that to see where Android's going to take us in those environments. And we still have computer labs at our elementary schools, much like Matt mentioned. That's basically due to assessments. In our middle school environment, we have innovation-type spaces when it comes to computer labs. We have digital photography labs. We have computer science labs. And in our high school, we have things such as engineering spaces and all the way to we're about to build sort of what Matt just said, which is why I wanted to piggyback off of him. We're building what used to be called a vocational center, but now is going to be a career connection center that's going to incorporate some academies such as a computer science academy all the way to fire college, welding, building construction, And so we're kind of trying to make the connections between computer science and all these different ways. Our network is pretty robust, and we have wireless access points throughout, so we are really rocking and rolling in Hoover. I'm very proud of our structure that we have in place for our teachers and students.
I'll just quickly piggyback there and echo that in northern New Hampshire, a lot of our schools have the Chromebooks, you know, the sort of middle school, high school, the one-to-one Chromebook access. Growing into the upper elementary schools. So that's, and most of our schools in northern New Hampshire have good Wi-Fi access throughout buildings, library tech programs, and a growing number of STEM labs, and the, you know, access to CTE or career and tech high school. So, you know, what I'm hearing from our other panelists is we could echo that up here in northern New Hampshire as well.
All right. All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to do our first poll for the audience or participants. So if you'll just type your answer in the box and we'll be able to see everybody's results. What type of technology do you have at your school, district, or network? And I wanted to leave this kind of an open, short answer because everybody has such different things. I didn't want to limit it to just a few options. So, all right. We have laptops.
Actually, while those questions are coming in, I would be remiss if I did not mention that also we have some STEAM labs in our elementary schools, and I say that because Ashley is the teacher of one of those, and so I would definitely like to point out that we have those. In over half of our elementary schools, every elementary school has the opportunity to have a space, and 6 of the 10 have a full-time teacher.
Mm-hmm. And I see that doing nothing but growing. So that's exciting. All right, so computer lab. '21st century flipped classroom. All right, I'm going to give everybody just a couple, like one more minute to respond to our poll. Windows, they can use slides. And I'm not sure I know what Swivel is.
So I'm looking at this, wondering how well a 13-year-old Linux desktop compares to a Raspberry Pi.
Mm. Yep.
I'm guessing the Pi might win.
All right. Projectors, dot cams. All right, thanks everybody for responding. We're going to go to our second poll about actual student access to all of these different types of technology. Yeah, how often that happens. All right, so it looks like 5 people have throughout the school day. We have one that's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. Oh, wow. It's just so interesting to see the people we have here and everybody's different access levels. All right, so thank you everybody for responding. That's really interesting information going forward. Now we're going to go back to the slides. All right, so we're going to move to question 2. So we talked about the access that you have, and I wanted to talk about the challenges faced in building that access. I know that Sarah and Matt, y'all are ready to answer, so do either of you want to jump in here?
Well, I'll get us started. My view is more of the national policy view, and the last polls were really interesting when there was a real mix of actual access during the school day. So when you're thinking about being a teacher voice in policy work, that really needs to be an amplified voice, because if we're talking about expanding computer science for all, but you're making curriculum decisions, and the reality is that your classrooms might only have access once a month. What is that going to mean if a policy comes down that says now you're teaching CS? So we really work with states and state leadership, which is everybody from the teachers to building administrators to departments of education, to focus on a landscape, which is not just who's taking computer science now, but what is the reality of your hardware, what is the reality of training, what is the reality of your bandwidth, as I'm watching my little orange button tell me that my bandwidth isn't great right now. So what would that mean for actual implementation in the schools? And I don't have the answers, just something to be aware of, as you all know, the complexities actually in the school day.
All right. And I don't know if y'all noticed that Tom said that in New York they have extreme network challenges. I mean, I can think back to Hoover beginning everything, and we started with Nooks in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and I just remember those running pretty slowly too. Does anybody else want to jump in and answer or talk about the challenges faced?
Yeah, sure. So there are kind of three challenges. One we've overcome. So we've actually, I would actually say we've pretty successfully gotten over the bandwidth issues. We actually have a full 10 gig network, wide area network, and then we have a 3 gig connection out that we can ramp up if we need to, and we've been able to kind of invest and work on that. But the biggest thing, I mean, and kind of this goes to the last question, which is the advice, but I mean, the biggest thing we were able to do is kind of use partnerships and use as much leverage elsewhere as we possibly could, and really made sure that we kind of like overbuilt the network, and we were it's actually really worked out at this point. And so I would actually say we're pretty far ahead for such a, in all other ways, kind of low performing district. So we're actually pretty proud of that one. But it definitely was not the case even a couple of years ago, and even we were actually there was actually a long time we were just riddled with DDoS attacks as well. So we've actually successfully been able to tackle that problem too, which is a whole other thing that I wouldn't wish upon anybody. One of the other things that I want to bring up, and kind of in a different way, but funding is actually been a really big issue in Holyoke, and not just the same kind of complaint of like there isn't enough money, but when money does come to a poor district like Holyoke, it actually tends to be just in a grant. So it's just one lump sum type of money that people just see and their eyes light up and they go, oh my God, let's buy, all this stuff for everybody. And then, what happens even 2 years later, or 3 years later, or 5 years later. And so, it even happened with, and I know it's not really CS, but like even our copiers, like they all started dying around the same time, and it's about 5 years after they were all bought, and there's no plan for doing that. So, similarly, we had a lot of problems where all the original desktops were purchased all at the same time with this giant grant they got like 10 years ago to upgrade, and then they all are dying at the same time. And so it's, kind of scrambling to figure out what we're doing. And so then we moved, so now we've really moved to a leasing structure where any of the equipment that we're getting, we're working on making sure that we're getting a lease. And the really important part here is that we're getting leases that match the expected lifespan of the equipment. It sounds kind of obvious, but before I got here, there was a 5-year lease on Chromebooks and laptops for teachers that it's killing me right now, because I kind of expect a Chromebook is for what I think is really a maximum of like a 3-year span on those. Maybe you can stretch them to 4, but we just can't get rid of them or can't replace them because we're still paying that lease. So that's pretty interesting. But that's the funding and the way that comes in has been a struggle. And then the last one is kind of just the mindset in the district. I think teachers have, it's either you have a really interested teacher that then moves on, or you have teachers that think computer science just happens elsewhere. And so I've actually been really working on kind of, changing that mindset and trying to, as much as I can, kind of not dismantle, but replace the structures of like old computer labs that kind of give that symbol of like, oh, computers happen there and not so much in the classroom. So we're really trying to bring the technology to the classroom and help work with teachers, even in small ways. Like it's not really, we're really trying to not just take just that really interested teacher. We're trying to even just let little steps grow into bigger steps and kind of, use people in the classrooms to kind of inspire other teachers. And we've been able to do some, we've actually started a Holyoke University where teachers can take classes from other teachers. So it's actually been pretty interesting to be able to expand that. So, yeah.
Yeah, the what Matt mentioned about leasing, I think that's a solution where the schools in our area, in northern New Hampshire, that have found that solution are very happy. They've worked hard to put it in the budget, and then that's a flat number that they can continue in the budget. And again, as Matt said, finding that right lease time period is really important. These Chromebooks and other computers at that price and quality level don't last. As and kids, students in a one-to-one scenario some of them are going to be very hard on those devices. So for schools to plan for their maintenance and upkeep, that's critical. A lot of forward thinking is required. And then when we have schools that are filled with these internet machines, and we look at our high schools and what does coding look like at the high school level, and does an internet-only machine work? Or if all I do is write code for the screen, but I don't write code for devices, whether they be robotics or Internet of Things devices or 3D printing, is that a dead end that we're throwing our high school students into? So that's something we're seeing in northern New Hampshire, is a lot of access to Chromebooks, but at the high school level, not a lot of access to machines that can take it further for students who want to really go there.
All right. And Kelly, do you have any input on the challenges faced building our access in Hoover?
We did have some challenges, of course, when we first started, and we still have many today. But I think that just the speed in which we move is very difficult. What today looks like is not what tomorrow is going to look like, and that's hard. It's hard on teachers. It's hard on administration. Some of the challenges we face have just, in a one-to-one, has been things like the students have access 24/7. So when they have access 24/7, sometimes that lends itself to decisions that happen off campus that we then deal with on campus. And even though we predicted that, those scenarios change so often. Those are just challenges that we face as a team every day. And we're talking about funding, certainly finding a sustainable model, that would be a challenge that we revisit frequently. And I just think in general buy-in. Right now we have it, so I think we're over that hump. But if I can look back, that was a big challenge in general. We kind of did it through finding a team of influencers. If you are a big follower of anything on Instagram, if they want to sell, flat body tea, they go and find the most popular person on reality TV, and they send them the free tea, and they take their picture, and now all of a sudden everybody buys the tea. So we tried to find the influencers in our school district and promote them and really say, hey, you're a rock star, and put all of our eggs in that basket. And we call them the Engaged Learning Facilitators. That's just the name of our one-to-one. And so teachers like learning from teachers, and I hope that we see that same movement with computer science. So if we can build up those teachers as influencers and take some of the worry away, that's really our goal in Hoover.
All right, awesome. So let's move on to question 3. What does computer science look like in your school district or network? And Matt, if you don't mind, we're going to start with you.
All right, cool. Yeah, so we're yeah, it's pretty interesting. So like I probably said it each time now, but we're in state receivership, and so one of the things is where we're really looking at pushing innovation in the district, and so our superintendent is really gung ho on computer science, but I don't really even think he if he's watching whatever, but like I don't really think he knows quite what that looks like. So we're really trying to figure it out. But one of the biggest things that I've really come to know just from being a teacher is just that computers in the classroom and technology in general are kind of like a magnifying glass for teachers. Like it's either if they're really not a good teacher to begin with, it's going to really show that. But if they're a good teacher and they're using it well, it's gonna just have a huge impact there. And so really like where we across the district, we actually have 2 dedicated computer science teachers at the middle school level, and that's actually cut back from 4 last year. There are actually 2 let go, and so it's just kind of those hard decisions that people are making. So we're really having to go and kind of look at, all right, so now we're going to have a STEM school, and we're going to make sure that that's going to be kind of put in throughout their curriculum. We have worked with our, and I saw the comments here about the Chromebooks for K through 8, and I really agree, except the budget is really tough on there. And so, but one of the things we've really worked on, and I'm really working on it, is making sure the high schools, like as we're redesigning them, really have the equipment that they need. So we've, like I said, we've been replacing computer labs with really high horsepower desktops. We even have built a full graphics lab with some great computers in there. There's only 12 of them, but they're my technicians are envious of those computers. And so we also have a really great partnership. We actually have a community partnership with Holyoke Codes, who actually comes in and does opportunities for all of our 7th graders. So it started last year with all of our 7th graders, and they actually did a coding project that was basically they would start it in all the classrooms, and then they'd be able to go. We have a computing center in our town that we are very fortunate to have, and so basically we bus every single middle schooler through there, and they do a coding project. And then we actually expanded that this year, so now there's a 7th grade experience, there's an 8th grade follow-up experience, and we're hoping to just kind of keep on expanding on that, but we're really using the expertise of them. And so, with all this, like it all sounds pretty cool, but like really in the end, like it's pretty disjointed across our district, and we're really working and trying to figure these things out. But I mean, we're also figuring out a lot of problems all at once, and so this is one of those just one of those things where we're really we know this is a priority, and we know that this is something we need to get into. But we're also trying to like thoughtfully design it in the future so that kind of what we have now, we can kind of keep that growing. So.
Yeah, I would echo the sentiment that it's sort of a mixed scenario for CS in the schools in northern New Hampshire, and our schools, granted, are small, schools, well under 1,000 students, even K-12, well under 1,000 students in the towns, and it's likely then in the elementary or middle or high school there's one teacher that's trying to push things and is that early adopter and that influencer, and those are terrific. And at White Mountain Science, we get to work with that group of teachers and engage them through professional development. So it is spotty what computer science looks like, and boy, code.org and Hour of Code, they did an amazing job of marketing that program so that the word code and computer science is becoming relevant again. It's in our conversations, and I hope that continues. So I'm really excited for this next phase where schools start to look at some scope and sequence K-12. Those conversations are just at the very beginning right now. So I'm anxious to help those conversations move forward so we go from a couple of influencers to some more widespread adoption of coding curriculum.
All right. I know for us, I think it's just getting started. Really, it's just kind of voluntary integration for K through 5, mostly digital literacy, digital citizenship, things like that. So Anybody else?
I would say that in our middle schools, we do have dedicated teachers, and that's something that we worked for, and a couple of years ago we put them together, and that kind of came up with some commonalities of what they were going to teach, because as you kind of mentioned, there wasn't an exact structure the way that if you're a math teacher, you're handed, here's your standards, here's your curriculum. So they had to work together, and they did, and it was very successful. And we also are a partner, of course, with Code, so we're able to use those resources in our classrooms. I think that, like Ashley mentioned, we do have kind of a teacher buy-in. The teachers that have bought in have already started on this. We have tech coaches in our school districts, so they've been able to model for the last few years how this could integrate into a general teacher's classroom. And so we see that happening as well. Our state is adopting a course of study that has standards for K-12. That's digital literacy, computer science. So I think that we will see that grow over the next few years, because that's going to radically change how computer science happens in Alabama for our students. So maybe this time next year we'll do a check-in and tell you how it's going.
Sounds good. All right, so let's go to question 4. What kind of support system is in place for teachers? I know we've kind of touched on a little bit of this. And I thought we could address, I know we have one question about what PD looks like in districts. So what kind of support system is in place for teachers implementing CS and computational thinking? Sarah, if you want to jump in, you can start us off.
Yeah, you know, just as I keep hearing stories, or we all hear the stories about the student that got lucky, that got into computer science and sort of followed that pathway on. I feel like I hear the stories of the teacher got lucky and found their professional learning community. And I think that that's tricky when we're still talking about teacher isolation, but we have this call for computer science for all. So my plug, and I think I'm preaching to the choir here, I'm going to assume, because I recognize so many names, that many of you are the early adopters and the ones that find your hashtags and your Twitter chats. But in the sense of often being the own teacher in an elementary school or middle or high school teaching computer science, looking to what national organizations are online to just build out a more robust community of resources. And I'm sure that you could all make a longer list than I can list off. But you know, what are the unique communities? Where can you get additional training, like through Code we've talked a lot about, but what is Google offering? What is Microsoft offering? With CS for All Teachers, just joining calls and Twitter chats, or I know Vicki was on here who runs the K-8 CS chats. Sometimes it's a great way to get some just-in-time support when you're facing classroom challenges, whether it be around advocacy or pedagogy in the classroom.
Right.
We are actually partners with several of our local universities, and so one of our the very first trainers for Code.org in our state is a computer science professor from the University of Alabama. So he too came to our district and started the training years ago. We are also in talks with UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham, and how they are going to partner with the education department and the computer science department to send out teachers who are ready and prepared with both skill sets. As we know, that can sometimes be not difficult, but that's a journey that those teachers go on. And so we look to partner with these universities as well. And I think that we will see some regional professional development that happens based off of those partnerships.
Yeah, so for us in northern New Hampshire, you know, we represent, it's one reason I joined White Mountain Science is that we don't have universities in northern New Hampshire that can do that support. There's a gap to fill. So there's a couple education organizations that I work with, and we try to leverage state grants and foundation grants to get more teacher professional development out there, and it's still at that level of hour of code. What's that, going from pre-awareness to awareness. So we're still trying to spread the word, about online resources, of which there are many, and I've seen in the chat, links and our references to resources here in the conversation. We live at a time when you can go online and find free a lot of great resources, but it does take those early adopter teachers, those influencers, to build out that network. So for us, it's the lucky teacher that finds something and shares it with their colleagues. It's these early PD opportunities that really, and it's the school grants that some folks are writing. That's the landscape of support now in northern New Hampshire.
All right. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up on all the chat. There's a lot of information going on down there, and that's one great thing I love about this community is I kind of lucked in and went to a code.org training that was offered through my district, and that was my buy-in right there. Just that one-day training, I was done. And then I've just continued to grow that. And I don't know, this is just, yeah, code.org. But also places like CS for All Teachers, I'm going to do a plug here because we're a virtual community. It's free. You sign up and you can find your pod of experience level and resources and ask questions, and that's been really helpful too, just finding your tribe, I guess. All right, let's go to question 5. So what steps are being taken by you or others to help with expanding future computer science instruction?
Well, I'm happy to share in northern New Hampshire, just an effort to actually define what a certification in computer science looks like. So we have the first, I think, 5 to 10 teachers gaining that certification this coming year, and then they'll grow from there. So high school, and then I believe a middle school certification. And code.org is making a great push here in New Hampshire. We're sending, I think, 45 teachers to the Phoenix conference this summer. And a part of that deal is that they are then offering a course. So we go from doing a unit of study in code to a course. And in New Hampshire, those 45 early adopters and influencers, I think, can play a big role in spreading, especially if then at the state level, there's a push for teachers to become certified in computer science.
I mentioned earlier that the state of Alabama is working to actually next week, it should go before the Board of Education, that we will have a course of study that mainly focuses on computer science, but also has digital literacy in it as well. And so the steps that we are taking in order to help expand really is starting from the state. I'm proud of that work. I mentioned Dr. Jeff Gray earlier. He's from the University of Alabama, who brought code.org to us. And he was integral in these standards as well. And so he's taking it from a standpoint of what should these students look like when they come to him at the university. And so his work has trickled down to the K-12 environment. So I think that, again, with those key partnerships, we are looking to take something from, Bill, I think you mentioned the awareness stage, all the way into integration. And I know that that's a big task, and that we might see that takes years of work, but just knowing that it's on our horizon is very exciting to me and to others as well.
All right, anybody else have input?
I'll just chime in and say with the ESEP states, we're looking at this holistically, you know, both pre-service training, how can we involve universities, how can we help them to build out programs, what are the needs of in-service teachers, how can states help teachers find community and find the PD that is right for them, how does that all tie into the frameworks and standards that are being developed. So really taking a holistic view of what it's going, you know, it's the long game, it's the marathon of CS for all, and trying to hear all of the voices that put it together and listen to the obstacles and try to think about ways through them, not around them, that will get us onto the other side of computer science being a regular part of the K-12 school day.
All right. Anybody else? And audience, I just wanted to, our participants, I wanted to remind you, if you have a specific question, feel free to use the raise hand feature so that we can get your question answered. We've been trying to address some here. All right, so let's go to question 6, and this is actually our last question. And I'm glad that we have a little bit of time to answer it because I feel like this we'll get some really great input here. So one or two pieces of advice would you have for implementing computer science in settings with varying access to technology?
Yeah, I can take that first if you want. So I think it's kind of come up already in the past answers, but I think the biggest thing is just partnerships are so key. And so basically it's kind of like, so we were able to, so one of the things we were able to partner with our local gas and electric company to run a full fiber optic network between our schools. We were able to partner with MIT to like just boost our internet connection. And those were all based off of just conversations that I just kind of went like, hey, what if we did this? Is that possible? Or what do you think about that? And so I think the biggest advice for forming those partnerships is ask, always figure out like what, you know, even if it sounds ridiculous, just always ask, because you know, what's the worst that can happen? They say no. And so we've been able to do a lot of really good stuff. And so there were some more kind of obvious partnerships we've had. Like we have a really great partnership with HP right now, where they've been really helpful for us through a local vendor who's been just really helpful. And we're pretty trusting. Not to say we don't like, you know, compare prices and that kind of stuff, but we've been able to kind of form those partnerships and keep them and like really kind of nurture those and keep them going. And I think the biggest thing there is just nothing comes from not asking. And so even when it comes to like pricing on stuff from partners, from vendors, is I always just, I never take the face value for the price. I always say, well, yeah, what about a little bit less, right? I'll even give them the sob story like poor kids in Holyoke and, show them sad puppy eyes from little kids and stuff. But it definitely is like ask, and it pretty much never fails. And that like the initial quote you get on any price of something is always negotiable with the business. And it's like, it almost always comes down, which really helps. And so, the other piece of advice that I just, I want to make sure is just, all technology is just an inanimate object. I mean, it's, there's nothing until the people are there. And so you've got to make sure that, what you're putting money towards and what you're putting time and effort and resources towards, is really, has the people behind it and the people at the other end. And so, underestimating the human aspect is probably one of the most common problems and probably one of the biggest problems that's left kind of a bad taste in people's mouth in my district that we're working to get over, and we're really working to push past that. And so, and again, that's even the always ask is even like, that's the same thing with teachers, right? Always ask, always put that email out there like, hey, there's this really cool program. Who wants to try this? There's going to be an early adopter that raises their hand and tries it out. And then they can expand on in the future. So it's just that, keep pushing, stay curious, and keep seeing like what you can get and how far you can push stuff.
I would say with the key people in your district that are leading and spearheading the CS movement, is to have answers to the hard questions. So if someone says, you know, how would we possibly ever do this, that you have kind of a consistent answer as to how we're going to do this. Well, we're going to do it through offline means, or we're going to do this in XYZ manner, so that whoever that team is that's spearheading those influencers know the answers, so that they're not always having to defend, but instead they're promoting. They're taking that opportunity to take that conversation that could be a negative and really change it into a positive. So I would say getting together and having kind of that FAQ, this is what we're going to say, to some of those hard questions, and then also modeling it and being, you know, walk it, do it. If it's an activity that you feel like every student in the classroom needs a device to do, take it offline and try to do it that way, so that when somebody tries to push back, you can always, you feel confident in how this can be done from the smallest level to the grandest.
Yeah, and I would, you know, say the story that I think heard earlier. Who are the lucky kids that you know, that get into that career? You know, and this notion with sports teams or entertainers, you know, who gets to go pro? You know, well, in STEM and in computer science, we can all go pro, right? Our students can all go pro, and so that's a powerful message, that this is not for the lucky few; it's for anybody. And the other piece that I, you know, keep working with my team on and in schools is evaluation. So if we implement a new program, whether it's an after-school coding program or a single unit in a class, you know, collect some form of data. You know, if it's informal, if you have to make it up yourself, it doesn't have to be, you know, standardized science tests or language arts tests. It could be what code.org uses, you know, the number of lines of code, you know, how many students, how many boys and girls, how many days, you know, collect that evaluation data and then represent it with these resources. We did this year or this week, and our target is this, and we're going to keep tracking and representing it to you. That goes a long way with funders, with families, with administrators, very powerful.
Bill, to piggyback off of that, speaking about, I'm sorry, Sarah.
No, go.
Speaking of administrators, I just wanted to mention that in the last training that we had with code.org, we had about 4 or 5 of our elementary assistant principals in there who had never gone through any sort of training with their school, with themselves as a teacher. So they came in as fresh meat. And when they left, they got it. And so when their teachers then wanted to commit money, resources, and time toward the CS movement, then certainly they were better educated as to the why, which is what we wanted.
I was going to share a story. If anybody was just at the recent SIGC conference in Baltimore, you might have heard this, but when thinking about classroom and district obstacles, a professor from Puerto Rico stood up and told a story, of course, trying to teach computer science without power in Puerto Rico right now, and relied on CS Unplugged to finish up a curriculum and was able to change how they were teaching it in that particular classroom. The second story, also out of Puerto Rico, was that there was a high school group that was for the first time working with mobile CSP. Also couldn't finish their app development because they couldn't charge their phones, and they had people donate solar arrays, small arrays for the school, so that the students could charge their devices and finish. So I feel like whenever we think of obstacles in our area, to think about the teachers in Puerto Rico that just figured out how to get it done. Certainly that's extreme, but sometimes I think that we're talking about districts, especially in rural areas, that might just not have the access, and how are we making sure that PD and curriculum is taking into consideration very diverse school districts.
All right. I believe that is going to be our last question. Let's see. So thank you, everybody, for joining in on the conversation. I believe we have a survey for you. Yeah, everybody loves the solar alternatives. I would love to look into that too.
So before we close things out, I'll just say a few words. To reintroduce myself, I'm Deirdre Magnan. I'm with the American Institute for Research. I'm based in Boston. And AIR helps manage the CS for All Teachers community of practice, which is funded by the National Science Foundation. So we thank them for their support and that they value the work that you all are doing. And I'm not a CS educator, but it's always so interesting to attend these webinars and hear about the different struggles people are facing, the successes that they've had, resources that they're using, and just to the support that the group is offering. Just looking at the chat pod, it's been on fire, and people have been communicating with each other, and we love to see that. So we're so glad that people are finding this useful. On that note, join our community of practice. Everyone's welcome. As Ashley mentioned earlier when she was putting in her plug, it is free to join. There's something for everyone, whether you're an elementary school teacher, middle school, high school, if you're focused on CSP or ECS, we've got a group for all of those topics. And there's resources, blogs, webinars like this, all kinds of things. And the more members who join, the more robust the community becomes, the more supportive it is to everyone. So please do go ahead and join. We'd love to have you. I want to also, of course, thank tonight's panelists, Kelly, Sarah, Bill, and Matt, and Ashley, who is a CS for All Teachers community ambassador. So thank you, Ashley, also for hosting tonight. We appreciate that. You all make the community so valuable. Also, just wanted to let everyone know that we will be posting the webinar recording on the site. That's csforallteachers.org, so you should see that link there on the screen now. So we will post the recording there. We also post it to YouTube and retweet it out. So there's different ways to access this recording as well as the PowerPoint presentation. We'll get that online for you to have access to as well. We host these webinars typically 1 or 2 a month. So we don't have the exact date yet for the next one that we're hoping will be in March, but do check out the site because we post that in the events section there on the site. And Ashley mentioned a survey. So we want your feedback. We want to know how we're doing. We want to know what you enjoyed about the webinar, what we could do better. This helps us improve the content and the way we deliver it. So if you could just take 2 minutes to fill out that survey. It should be really quick. It's going to open up in a new browser tab or window for you when we close the room. I'm also going to paste it in the chat pod so that you'll have the link to that and can access it. It will also be on the screen, just in case it doesn't open automatically for you. It'll be on the screen when the room closes as well. So there's plenty of opportunities to take that survey, which, again, we do really appreciate. So Ashley and panelists, unless you have anything else that you'd like to say, I think that's it for the night, but I want to give you a shot to say any final words.
I just wanted to thank my panelists for being here and participating in this conversation. It was really great to hear from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.